Hey y'all, welcome to Restless Chipotle Kitchen. Today we are making a game day essential and you're gonna want the recipe. So the first thing we need is 1.5 pounds of onions cut thin. And I've already cut these, but what I like to do is I like to cut them thin. And I know some people say if you leave the root on, it won't make you cry, but I haven't found any way to slice onions that didn't make me cry, y'all. So it just doesn't matter. My eyes are gonna water no matter what I try to do. Anyway, so we're gonna cut these. I peel them, I cut them in half, and then I get the other onions out of the way, and then I just cut them just as thin as I can because they'll cook faster that way for one. And they don't have to be super evenly cut because they just don't. We're not working in a professional kitchen or anything like that. So you just do it the easiest way for you. I am not the best knife wielder, knife skills person that there is. So anyway, so we just cut those really thin, just like that. Whoops. And if they decide that they're not going to be cut, I throw them out. But I think I can get that one. Hang on just 1 minute. Here we go. That should do it. Well, maybe not. Sometimes I can put a fork in there and I can get the last couple of slices, which that worked pretty well. This is a little too thick, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, once you have your onions sliced, it's also good to kind of pull them apart so that the rings are not all stuck together. You don't have to, again, this isn't one of those things that you have to be super careful with. Just the best you can, kind of pull them apart. As they cook, they're going to fall apart to some extent anyway, but this just kind of gives them an extra little head start on that. The main thing that takes the longest time with this onion dip literally is caramelizing the onions, and even that doesn't take very long. The thinner cut they are, the quicker the caramelization process will go. So I think you're probably looking at 10 minutes, maybe 15. If you want to, there's no reason why you couldn't caramelize them the night before, stick them in the fridge, and then finish the dip up the next day or in another couple of days. All right, so we've got the onions all done. Besides the onions, we need a cup of sour cream, 8 ounces of cream cheese. Let me put sour cream back there. A quarter cup, 4 tablespoons of butter. And salted or unsalted, I don't care. Whatever you usually use is fine with me. It's just not that big of a deal in this. You're gonna salt it to taste anyway, so if it's salted butter, you'll probably need to add a little less salt. If it's unsalted butter, you'll probably need to add a little more salt. Olive oil, the famous W sauce that I couldn't say last week. Y'all know what that one is, right? W sauce. Worcestershire sauce. I don't know why I can say that when I'm not on camera, I promise. Montreal steak, I almost said Montreal steak sauce. It's not, it's Montreal Steak Seasoning. There we go. And the Montreal Steak Seasoning and the green onions are really, I use those as a garnish. It adds a nice little flavor to the finished dip, but you don't have to use that if you don't want to. You're going to need 3 cloves of garlic. And remember I told y'all about this? Amazon has it. Excuse me. Amazon has it, and it's frozen crushed garlic. And all you do is you just open this up and cut out. When they're frozen, you can just pop them out. This has been sitting under the lights for maybe 10 minutes and it's already started to thaw, so I'll cut that and pop them out that way. But they are the handiest things. They're a little expensive, but I don't end up throwing my garlic away, so that is definitely a good buy, and it's really fresh and really delicious. Okay, and then the green onions, which are a garnish, And although this isn't in the recipe, a lot of times I'll taste it. Maybe the onions weren't quite as oniony as I like them to be, or whatever. I'll put in a little bit of garlic powder and maybe a handful of minced onions, maybe a quarter cup, maybe 2 tablespoons. So that's just kind of something you can do too. So if you know you like things very oniony, keep this on hand and taste it and decide if you want to add it. Okay, we're over at the stove, and I'm just going to turn the gas on and put in my 2 teaspoons of olive oil and 4 tablespoons of butter. The reason I'm putting both olive oil and butter in there is the olive oil helps the butter not to brown. We don't want brown butter in this. We want the butter to melt nicely, and we want the onions to caramelize, not the butter. By the way, that's 1 teaspoon of olive oil, not 2. Sorry about that. Okay, if you cut the butter up before you put it in the pan, unlike me, it will melt down faster. All right, once our butter is all melted, we're going to go ahead and put in the onions. And it's usually a pretty good idea to turn the heat down to medium about this time. At least while you're putting the onions in. You're going to cook the onions low and kind of slow. But I like to have the heat on high so when they first go in there, they start cooking right away. And then we're going to put the garlic in. And this, as I said, has already melted. You really want to keep these completely frozen. They come out a lot better when they are. But either way, they work really well, really well, and I just love them. We're going to mix this up and make sure that the butter is all over the onions, and the onions are kind of broken up. What we're going to do now is we're just going to let these cook on medium-low. I'm going to come over and stir them every few minutes, just to make sure that they're not burning or sticking. And this is going to take about 15 minutes. I haven't ever had them take more than that, although some people say that they caramelize their onions in their recipe. It says for like 20 to 30 minutes. So you're just going to have to go by the color of the onions, and plan on it taking 30 minutes. And then if it takes 15, you'll be happily surprised, right? Okay, y'all, we're nearly there, and this is a point at which I put the salt on. Sometimes I put the salt on at the beginning, sometimes I put the salt on kind of in the middle. A lot of recipes will have you stop at this point and call this caramelized. We are going for a bolder flavor, so we're going to keep going until they're much more golden brown than they are right now. So let's see, this is what they are right now. And I will see y'all in a few minutes. Okay, y'all. Once it gets to this point where they're kind of a reddish brown, then you're going to want to sit right next to them and keep moving them around, because this is a point that they go from being somewhat caramelized to being quite a bit burnt in a matter of a blink of an eye. So once they get to be this color right here, I'm going to hold them up because I feel like things are kind of dark right now. All right, once they get to be that color right there, then go ahead and plan on standing right next to them and moving them around the pan pretty often. It's been, for these, right now we are at actually 16 minutes, just to be very specific. How'd y'all like that? I was actually being specific. That's pretty cool. If you're going to caramelize onions pretty regularly and you don't have an iron skillet, I highly suggest getting one because they're good for everything, but especially good for caramelizing onions. They're good and heavy, they heat evenly, and they're just easy to work with. They last forever too. You can actually stop here if you want to. They're kind of a medium golden brown. I'm going to let mine get darker because the darker that they get, up to a point, the more flavor that they're going to have, okay? If they get like super black, then the flavor that they're going to have is, there's going to be a lot of it, but it's not going to be pleasant. I like to let them get to a really nice darkish reddish brown color. And we're just not quite there yet. At this point too, if you're going to keep cooking them, you can start cutting them up a little bit with a spatula. You don't want big strings of them in the dip. It's just, it makes it hard to eat the dip, right? So they're pretty tender now, and it doesn't take much just to push the spatula down into them and cut them up a little bit. This is also the point that I'm going to taste them, and if I feel like they don't have as much onion flavor as I like, I will put in a little bit of the dehydrated onion just to amp that up. You could also use onion powder. Don't use onion salt or garlic salt because you're already salting, but onion powder or garlic powder would be fine. Those are pretty good, but I do want a little bit more of this dehydrated onion in it, and I've actually had to add it several times lately, so I don't know if onions are getting wimpier, less flavorful, or if my tastes are changing, but I'm just going to put in about a tablespoon of dried onion and a little bit more garlic. And usually at this point, I don't measure, I just put in. And that's why we start out with 1.5 pounds of onions, because by the time we're done, we're lucky to have a cup of onions. If you're still caramelizing and you start to see some pieces on the bottom start to stick, you can just put a tiny bit of water in there and the steam will lift that up and the onions will absorb all of it. See, I've got some sticking through here. I'm just going to put that on there, and we're just going to let the onions absorb that, and they're not watery, as you can see, and our pan is relatively clean again. And we're just about there. I think that that's exactly where I want them to be. Nice and reddish golden brown. So I'm going to turn the heat off. And we are going to let these come to room temperature. The best way to do that is either just to leave them and go and do something else, or to put them on a plate and let them cool off while you're finishing up the rest of the dish. All right, while the onions are cooling off, we're going to make the base to the dip. And to do that, we're going to take the sour cream and put it in a bowl. And we're going to take the softened cream cheese and put it in the bowl. This is so easy, y'all. It is so good. And once you taste it, you are, I swear to you, you're never going to buy the store kind again. It's just delicious. I am super excited because next week we are getting a cold front. It said on my weather thing on my phone that Friday was supposed to be like 77 degrees and rainy, and that sounds wonderful after so much 100-degree weather. Okay, once we get those two together, we're just gonna whisk it up. And put the Worcestershire in. And mix it up. Mix it in there really well. Make a mess like I usually do. And you can add more of that if you want to. You could also use soy sauce if you prefer it. Soy sauce, excuse me. Soy sauce gives it more of a beefy umami kind of flavor. And you just want that to be well mixed, so that there's not streaks of cream cheese or streaks of sour cream. Right? Give it a little taste, see if it needs more salt. That is just about perfect. Delicious. I think I'm going to put a little more garlic powder in it though. I like garlic a lot. When you're making a recipe where you're using onions or garlic or something like, or peppers, jalapeno peppers, keep in mind that there's not a standard flavor for them. Sometimes they're going to have a weaker flavor. Sometimes they're going to have a stronger flavor. So it's always important to taste and add as you go. Have another little taste. Clean spoon. That's much better. Some of y'all have asked me why, if I was nervous, if that's why my voice goes in and out, or I take a deep breath, and it's not that at all. I'm very comfortable around y'all. It's like having my family come into my kitchen. However, I had throat surgery in 2009 and had my thyroid removed. So when I talk for a long time, my throat gets very scratchy and it's kind of hard to talk. But I'm not nervous, and I'm not sick or anything like that. That's just the way it is. It's something I live with. That is just about perfect. It's ready for the onions. I will see if they've come to room temperature yet. I'm going to clean that up a little bit and we'll be ready to go. I put the onions on a plate, on a paper plate, and put them in the freezer to help them cool down quick, and they did. So I'm going to put those in there. And then we're just going to fold those in just like that. You can really see the difference in the color between, the onions have gotten such a deep brown, and the sour cream and cream cheese are light. It's just, you can see how many onions are actually in there. Amazing and delicious. Okay, I'm going to run the paper towel around here one more time. My mom used to tell me I was messy, and she was not wrong. Okay, and then we'll just smooth this top a little bit. Add the green onions. And you can stir some of those in if you want to. They're going to get stirred in anyway, right? Let's stir some of those in there for that good green onion, fresh green onion flavor. This is so good. You absolutely can't do like football season without it. It's just so good. And it's better the next day than it is on the first day. So if you can make it a day or two ahead of time, that's the best way. All right, let's smooth it out again. Put the rest of the green onions on the top. And we'll just add a little of the Montreal Steak Seasoning, and ready to go. So there's our dip. It's all put together. It's super creamy. I've got these broken chips from the bottom of the bag that my family left me. I just dip those in, and that is so creamy. Y'all, this is so creamy. It's so oniony, and it's so good. You've got to make it. It's perfect for game day. It's going to get you through the fall, okay? Still hot in my kitchen. My glasses keep slipping down. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope y'all come back next week. I hope you subscribe. And hey, down below is a link to my email subscription list go ahead and subscribe to that too. Then you'll get all of the recipes that come out on the blog, plus all the recipes that come out on YouTube too. And yeah, I hope you'll try this. Hope you'll come back next week. Love y'all. Oh, and Emmy and Decky, love you guys. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.